This is a diagram from National Geographic, and I thought it was interesting because they're showing human evolution, right? 3 million years to the present. And they've given us examples to show this evolutionary progression. We have to be careful sometimes when we look at it because it suggests that there's an evolutionary progression because they've just put it in that form. But then you ask the question, what is actually evolving? What is the evolutionary progression here? Can you tell me? What's that?
Skull.
They're skulls, but I'm talking about what aspect of the skull is changing. In other words, does this prove evolution? They're presenting it as if it proves evolution. And so you look at it, and people read National Geographic and say, yes, look at that. We have evolved. And so I'm asking the question, what is evolving there? What part of the skull is changing in a nice linear fashion from primitive to advanced? The teeth, well, these guys don't even hardly have, there's no teeth there. Teeth, no, I'm not really seeing a progression in teeth. Little brow, that's not a good sign, right? Aren't the primitive brows supposed to be big? So this is a little brow, and that's a little brow. You see what I'm saying? And there's the big brow, which is like second to us. So I'm not seeing a linear progression. In other words, you put this guy here, and you put this guy there, and you put this guy there. Change this guy and this guy. See? If you change those two, okay, I'll go with it. But this isn't evolutionary progression in brow ridge. There is something that's evolving here.
The skull's kind of becoming more Jones-shaped, I guess?
Yeah, the size. You see the size of the size is getting bigger. In other words, there's more gray matter, more brain. And also it's in this area right above your ears, what's called the temporal lobe. That's what's blowing up. So the only really progression that you see in these skulls is the temporal lobe, the part of the brain right above the ear. I think that's instructive, and we'll talk about that later. There are two parts of the brain that are important for discussion of, what is really man. What makes men or women, mankind. First is the frontal lobe, and what the frontal lobe involves are higher motor functions, judgment, impulse control, problem solving, sexual behavior, long-term memory, socialization issues in the front of the brain. But it's this, you see it looks like a boxing glove? Your brain looks kind of like a boxing glove. There's the thumb. See it? Well, the thumb of the boxing glove is a temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe controls auditory functions, hearing, language, memory, space and time, and self-awareness. So the ability to distinguish the flow of time and the fact that you are not a chair or a wall. You can distinguish yourself from something else. And the fact that you have not only self-awareness, but you can speak and you can retain spoken words and visual images in your brain. All those things are tied up in this part of the brain, according to recent research. And so what it is to be human, those types of things, are actually right here above the ear. And that's the part of the brain that's growing. Matter of fact, it's really not growing progressively. I'll show you in just a second. It's like no temporal lobe, no temporal lobe, no temporal lobe, bam, temporal lobe. So what does that sound like? Evolution? Sounds like it was created. I mean, it appears very suddenly. It's not a gradational thing to a certain extent. So it's right in this area, part of the brain. This is the Australopithecines that we looked at earlier. It does have a frontal lobe, but it's quite small compared to later. Yeah, here we go. I've shown the different skulls from the top, so you can see how it's changing. It's in this area. Homo habilis and Homo erectus, there's very little there in the temporal lobe, but you see Homo sapien? In other words, if we isolate the temporal lobe and we say, let's see how that evolves, this is what we see. It's a fairly quick advance there.